Mi hija Nehimkim, hello relatives. I'm Tina Arduino Calderon, Gabrielino-Tongva, Ventureño Chumesh, and Yoeme, and I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Hi, my name is Jessica Gudiel. I come from the people of the South of Maya from Guatemala, and I am your visual artist, your shadow art illustrator for today.
We're going to be sharing with you a project called Paviinokre, where the energies and the waters flow. But we're also sharing a Tongva story of the seven sisters. And I think it's very important for you all to know that many of the schools within the LAUSD system are on Gabrielino-Tongva lands, as well as Fernandeño Tatavian and Chumash, and that we're still here. So thank you so much for allowing us to share our story with you.
To share our story of how the people, the Tarahatam, came to be, I need to take you back in time, way back, to the time before our time, a time when volcanoes were bubbling, mountains were growing, earth was shifting, and waters were flowing without restriction. Life was abundant in many forms that are no longer physically here today, and others that have evolved into the species we know. When it would be time for the humankind to be introduced, Creator told the beings that we would need much help to survive. Several of those beings agreed to be our helpers. Some went underground, some went to the heavens, some went to the waters, and all around us to help the world transform so food for us would be abundant and the oxygen would be suitable for our lungs. When our early ancestors came to this realm, they were given instructions to be grateful and to live amongst the rock, mineral, water, animal, plant, and tree relatives as a united community. Our ancestors were told it would be our responsibility to care for the nature and live in reciprocity. The people spread out and formed villages large enough to be a community, but small enough so that the lands could support us, and we would never take more than we needed. Every village had a tumyar, a captain, and each tumyar would work with the others in the surrounding villages so that we all lived by the same teachings. Food was shared so that everyone in the village had enough. Along with this came a teaching that hunters and fishers were not allowed to keep their own catch. This was to keep people from becoming greedy. Nothing was ever wasted either. Every single bit of an animal or plant that was given was used for food, medicine, tools, instruments, baskets, and even clothing. We held beautiful ceremonies. We would dance and sing and pray and share stories. These ceremonies were to honor the sun, the stars, the moon, the waters, and many other relatives. From spring equinox to summer and winter solstice, And from the birth of a baby, a marriage, a puberty ceremony, and even memorial ceremonies, all were a time to gather and pray as community. Winter was a very special time for telling stories. And today I'm going to share with you the story of the 7 sisters. This is a story about a special constellation, a constellation that many different cultures observe. Some people refer to it as the Pleiades, but many tribal families, they call it the 7 sisters as we do, the Gabrielino-Tongva people. So this story happens long ago, and there are 7 sisters that marry 7 brothers. And they become a small village, and every day is beautiful. The women get up early and they bathe in the lake and the rivers and the streams near them. And there's so much beautiful tule growing around that they have a lot of privacy. And they do this so that when the sun rises, they are able to meet the sun and greet the sun with a clean body. They then come back to the village and they start to prepare breakfast. And one of our common meals would be the acorn that we grind into a flour, and we make a breakfast cereal out of it, much like oatmeal. So we could even say oatmeal. They make this porridge and they share it with their husbands. And then once everybody is nice and full, they go out about their day. The women go and they harvest. They harvest plant medicines and materials for their baskets, any kind of food that grows in their region. And they always ask a special prayer before they decide to harvest, and they choose the plant to harvest from. And likewise, the men go out and they hunt or they fish, and they bring back food also to share. And every day, day in and day out, this is their life, and they're happy. But one day something changes. Suddenly, when the men come home one evening, there is only a single rabbit that they caught for food. A single rabbit to feed all 14 people. And this happened the next day. And this happened the next day. And the next. So finally, the sisters began to be very suspicious. Why is it that suddenly our men have become bad hunters? Are their throwing sticks crooked? Have they done something bad that Creator is punishing them? They just couldn't figure it out. But it was always the youngest brother that came with the rabbit and gave it to his wife so that she could prepare it for dinner to feed all of them. So of course they would also have to cook some of the foods that they had harvested to make sure there was enough. But one evening, the sisters decided that they would figure out what was going on. So they came up with a plan. They decided that the youngest sister would pretend that she had a toothache. And so she would stay back and not go harvesting the next day. She would have to stay home and take care of her toothache and rest. But really, what she was going to do is watch the men as they went out to hunt to figure it out. What exactly was it that they were doing? What had changed? Why were they not getting enough food? So that's what they did. The next morning, 6 of the sisters start off their day with taking their bath. They come and they make their breakfast for everybody. And as they go out to harvest, the one sister stays behind, and all 7 brothers go out to hunt. The youngest sister hides in the plants and she watches. Later, when the men came back, she saw that all 7 brothers actually did have a rabbit, and that 6 of the brothers greedily prepared the rabbits, roasted them, ate them, and buried the bones so that the wives would not know what they had done. And the youngest brother, he held his rabbit and he waited for his wife to come back. He thought that she had gone out to sun herself because he didn't see her. But the sister knew. She saw exactly what they were doing. The men had become greedy. So when the other 6 sisters returned from gathering, they prepared the dinner meal. Again, there was just 1 rabbit to prepare. And that night, when everything was cleaned up, they asked the youngest sister what she had seen. And she had to tell them, "Your husbands are deceivers. They did come back with rabbits, and they greedily ate it. And when you came back, they pretended that they had not caught anything." The older sisters were so hurt and so disappointed because that goes against our teachings. We have to share our food. We cannot be greedy. So that evening, they go to the water source. They look upon the heavens and they pray and they ask Creator, "What can we do? We cannot stay with these men. They are dishonest. What can we do?" And they start to think, should they leave? No, because maybe the men would find them. What should they do? And suddenly, Creator lets them know that if they create a raft out of that beautiful tule that surrounds the water source, He will pull them up into the heavens and allow them to reside as beautiful stars. And that's what the sisters do. They create a beautiful raft, and they sit upon it, and they say, "Creator, we are ready." Suddenly, the raft begins to shimmy and shake, and up, up, up it goes into the night sky, and the sisters become stars, all of them huddled together and living in harmony. But when the sisters do not come home, the youngest brother gets very worried and he goes out to search for them and he cannot find them. And so day after day after day, in the evening hours, he searches for them. One day, the youngest sister begs her older sisters to take pity upon her husband, to bring him up into the night sky, to be with them. And finally, they do. So they ask Creator if they can bring him up, and he agrees. So they send the magic raft down for the brother. The brother happily aboards it and waits for it to be pulled up. And again, it begins to shimmy and shake, and up, up, up he goes into the night sky. Now the 7 sisters are one constellation, and they can't allow him to be part of their exact constellation, but they find a space very close to them in the night sky. So he becomes close enough that he can be near his wife, and he is the constellation of the Great Bull. So this is the story of the 7 sisters, and if we think about the lessons that these stories tell us, it is to be honest, hardworking, to never be greedy, share everything that we have. And I think that's a very good way to learn and to live. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this story with you. Again, this is the Gabrielino-Tongva story of the 7 sisters. Oh